Okay, Dr. Alexis, what would you suggest the 49ers do? Should they just it doesn't seem like you can move the substation at this point. Seems like it's pretty important to the whole region. So should they just experiment with moving their practice field just to see what happens, just to see if there's an effect?
That's absolutely the best experiment in my opinion. That's gonna be the most unbiased one as well. We wanna get, a decent distance away from that place, but also ideally, like, hopefully that it's not directly next to a cell tower either, because then we could create another issue and conundrum. So we wanna find somewhere that's, you know, reasonable distance from a cell tower, from the substation, and we could easily also there's building biologists and EMF biologists that can go out and they can do readings and they can assess the health of the environment from an EMF standpoint and make recommendations. So I would recommend the organization they hire somebody that can do that for them to get some readings on new potential areas, take up that new facility, that new practice field, play there for a couple seasons and see what happens to your injuries. This is like the most unbiased experiment that can be done.
Yeah, it seems like what they could say is, "Hey, we don't know yet. We're doing our due diligence. In the meantime, just to be careful, we're going to move our practice facility for indefinitely because
Yeah.
that's how seriously we take our player safety. Even though we don't know if this is really the fact, they could do that. Instead, they've been extremely dismissive.
That's
So
right.
until they change their tune, what would you recommend the players do to protect themselves?
Yeah. So from the player's standpoint, there's quite a few things that we can do to support mitochondrial function outside and on the field as well. So one thing that you can do, as I mentioned earlier, something that the mitochondria make that's very important from a tissue hydration and tissue fidelity standpoint is deuterium depleted metabolic water. But you can actually also buy deuterium depleted water. It's a little bit pricey, but I think they can afford it and it's worth it in this case. So deuterium depleted water, I recommend getting it from light water. You can get down to 5 parts per million. Typically, water is around 130 to 150 parts per million of deuterium. Deuterium is a heavy form of hydrogen. It's not radioactive, but what it does is it gunks up the mitochondrial engines and makes them less efficient. So when you get mitochondrial dysfunction from EMFs or from living an indoor lifestyle around all these frequencies, never getting outside in the sun, never grounding your bare feet on the earth, being sedentary, you can essentially start to get these mitochondria accumulating deuterium, which then further begets more dysfunction and more gunking up of that engine. And so we have really strong data in humans showing that deuterium depleted water consumption will essentially help with cancer patients to increase rates of remission in combination with chemotherapies and also reversing and ameliorating insulin resistance in type 2 diabetics. So we know that deuterium depleted water works really well in these pathological conditions to help reduce the burden of mitochondria and improve metabolic health. Similarly, if you're at the top of your game and you're really pushing your bioenergetic system to work its best, you want to make sure that your deuterium levels are optimized in your body, in your mitochondria, so that you can actually get the most out of them, especially in the context of chronic EMF exposures like this. So I would recommend doing a deuterium depleted water protocol. Typically, what they would do is they would take a bottle of the 5 parts per million water. It's like 16 fluid ounces. And then you would dilute that in a 1 to 3 dilution with the regular drinking water. So basically, 16 fluid ounce bottle, and then 48 of regular drinking water, 48 ounces. Mix that together, and that's your drinking water all day, every day. For them, I would say just stay on that water. That's going to be around 100 parts per million deuterium. That will help to optimize the deuterium load in the body and help their mitochondria to work better. Outside of that, kind of just alluded to it, but let me be explicit about it. Sunlight, super important for mitochondrial function, in particular UV and infrared light, very, very important for the mitochondria's ability to make energy, to make water, and also to make biophotons. So what a lot of people don't know is our mitochondria make their own light in the UV range. And actually, the UV light made in mitochondria is even stronger than the light produced in the sun. So UVC photons are made in our mitochondria, and they play a very important role in signaling, in growth control, in regulation of cell division, and in a lot of things that we're only just beginning to understand as well. So, in order to effectively harness and support those mitochondria, we need near infrared light exposure. There's a problem though. In the modern day, window glass blocks near infrared light. Near infrared is thermal, so it generates heat, but it's also very penetrative. So when you're exposed to sunlight, for example, there's a high fraction of near infrared light. It penetrates all the way through the body. It literally touches every mitochondria in your system. It even goes through your bone, into your brain, through your skull. And so our bodies are designed to be exposed to near infrared light as long as the sun is out. Even on a cloudy day, it doesn't matter. Modern humans are indoors behind glass that blocks near infrared light. We're under LED and fluorescent bulbs that contain no near infrared light. We're on device screens that contain no near infrared light. Our bodies are starving for this frequency that is required to effectively engage mitochondrial function, to produce this hydrating metabolic water, to produce energy. And so we need to be optimizing our sun exposure habits off the field if we're talking about these players. So first thing in the morning, get your butt outside, morning light in eyes on as much skin as possible. Do that for 5 to 15 minutes minimum. Ideally, you also want to get your bare feet on the earth. Grounding, it's not just some woo-woo hippie thing. Our bodies are meant to be electrically grounded to the earth. If not, they accumulate what is basically static charge. So an excess of positive charge, in the same way that like if you like rub a balloon and then you like stick it to your hair and it stays there, like what you're doing is creating excess positive charge that creates this stickiness. Our bodies are meant to be discharging that all the time through the earth. The earth is basically a giant negative charge soup that can suck up that positive charge and neutralize charge in the body, which also directly supports mitochondrial function. And we have data showing that in chronically inflamed individuals, even just 20 minutes of grounding will dramatically reduce inflammation. And you can look at that through a thermograph. So you can see hot inflamed areas before grounding, and after, those areas are completely cooled down. So even just 20 minutes a day of bare feet on earth, very, very important when it comes to mitochondrial function. Then when it comes to midday sun, midday is obviously when UV is at its peak. Most people know that because they're told to slap the sunscreen and put the sunglasses on and avoid it at all costs. It's the devil. Like, it's going to give you cancer immediately. Couldn't be further from the truth. UV light is a very, very important input for all people, but especially people with more melanin. The more melanin you have in your skin, the more UV light you need in order to thrive and optimize your performance. Vitamin D is a really good biomarker for this because vitamin D is made from UVB light in particular. And so that UVB light interacts with cholesterol in the skin to make pre-vitamin D that goes into the bloodstream and gets converted in the liver and kidneys into the final form. So 25-hydroxyvitamin D is the blood storage form of vitamin D. And it's, as long as you're not supplementing, it serves as a biomarker for your sun exposure habits. So if your vitamin D is low, optimal is between 60 and 80 nanograms per mil. Most people are walking around less than 30 and most less than 20, to be honest, especially if you have darker skin and live in the US. So all of my melanated brothers on the 49ers, they need to be getting their butts outside midday with as much skin exposed as possible, because the more skin is exposed, the more vitamin D you're going to make. But not only that, the more nitric oxide you make as well, which is produced in response to UVA light. A lot of people will know about nitric oxide if they're, into the gym and getting a good pump in. You'll take nitric oxide boosters in order to enhance blood flow. Well, UVA light is a primary mechanism by which the body makes nitric oxide, and it's also in the skin and it diffuses into the bloodstream. So if you want to get better athletic performance, better sexual performance, which is not really relevant to this, but relevant to dudes in general, tend to like that information, improved blood flow, you're going to get improved athletic performance and improved nutrient and oxygen delivery to tissues and waste removal from tissues. You want to get as much skin exposed as possible during, any time that UVA light is present. So typically, within a couple hours after sunrise to a couple hours before sunset. UVB peaks midday, depending on the latitude. The Niners, I don't think in San Francisco, they lose UVB light at all at their latitude. So, going out midday whenever possible, shirts off, shorts, like really soaking that up. And then the last piece to this for just like the basic lifestyle optimization to support themselves is at nighttime, we want to remove blue light completely. So if you're going to be on device screens, you want to put a filter on your screen, red filter on your computer, red filter on your phone. If you can't do that, wear a pair of blue blocking glasses that have a dark orange lens. Those are going to remove selectively the blue input. Blue light signals to the body that it's midday. So if you're getting the signal that it's midday at nighttime, you are creating a timing failure in your system that is going to affect everything from head to toe, essentially, because everything in our body is coordinated to the master clock in our brain, which is directly connected to the back of our eye. So when we're exposed to blue light, that goes to the master clock in the brain called the SCN, the suprachiasmatic nucleus. That master clock decides, okay, what time it is. If there's blue light, it's sometime midday. We're going to tell the body to engage in these certain behaviors and endocrine functions. We're going to increase cortisol. We're going to, activate metabolism. We're going to activate appetite, these types of things. We're going to support metabolic function. At nighttime, we're supposed to be in a rest and recovery mode. And so if we're exposed to blue light at night, we're never getting into that mode. We're suppressing melatonin production and function, which, by the way, EMF exposure has been shown to reduce melatonin production at the level of the mitochondria. So the melatonin made in our brain that is released when it's dark, when low blue light and low bright light in the environment is present, that helps us get sleepy and go to sleep and get good quality sleep and all that. But the melatonin made in our mitochondria plays critical roles in maintaining mitochondrial function. And so that actually ties back into the near-infrared light story that I mentioned earlier, because near-infrared light directly stimulates melatonin production in the mitochondria. So we need the near-infrared light. We need the midday sun. We need to block blue light at night, get red light bulbs at night. If you come to my house, all the lights are red. All the athletes I work with, their houses are dark. They're using candles or using red lights at night. They're turning their Wi-Fi off in their homes or their apartments off at night, because the closer you are to a source of EMFs, the higher the dose you're receiving. And if you're already getting blasted at work, for example, you need to do what you can at home, especially during sleep. That's 8 hours of your life that if you can get that optimized, you're setting yourself up to be, on the right foot. You want a cool, dark room, pitch black room. Even small amounts of light at night shown to increase insulin resistance and mitochondrial function the next day. If you do that every single night, if you have night lights on in your room or you're sleeping with the TV on, you are literally creating metabolic dysfunction day to day. So for these athletes that need to work at the highest level, they need to be dialing all of this stuff in. And, they can see the proof of work themselves. Don't take my word for it. Implement these things. See how you feel a week later. Tell me you don't notice a difference, because all of my athletes will say they 100% notice a difference, and they become all in on this because it's just very low-hanging fruit that's predominantly free. The only thing that costs money is the deuterium depleted water. And outside of that, you can dramatically improve performance, output, force transduction, tissue quality, reduce injuries, improve mood, improve your life quality outside of playing as well. And so those would be like my bare bones recommendations for what these players need to do in order to serve themselves while they're waiting on, upper management to do something about their working conditions.
I got one too. Tell me if you agree. Spend as little time at the facility as possible.
Yes.
Like if it's March and you're rehabbing a torn ACL, do that in Florida. Do
Yes.
it in Nova Scotia, not next to the substation.
Yes, 100%. Whenever you can reduce your proximity and dose to a source of, EMF like this, especially one that we're exposed to, these players are exposed to consistently for long periods of time and long weeks at a time, spend as much time as you can away from that. And like, I totally agree. Ideally, go more south, not more north. So go south, you get better sun there, beach access, more time outdoors, more pleasant weather. So off season, go south. Highly recommend. Check out Central America. It's absolutely gorgeous. I just got back from there last month. Spent some time in El Salvador last year as well. Beautiful, beautiful beaches. Anywhere there's a volcano as well, the volcanic activity is really a good sign that your mitochondria are going to love that area, because the magnetic flux there, the Earth's magnetic flux, is stronger and different in those areas in a good way. Obviously, that's like natural magnetism and not like our fluctuating AC power grid magnetic fields. So if you want to travel somewhere, go somewhere that there's a beach and also a volcano nearby, and that's like manna for your mitochondria if you want like a little oasis retreat to help rehab yourself.